Of In Pit Lane. Yes, we're coming to you live from the RMI TV studios here in beautiful Grand Prix City, Melbourne. Coming up this weekend up at Winton Motor Raceway is, of course, the Supercars, and one of Australia's young supercar hopefuls in the Dunlop Super 2 series is Thomas Randle. He'll be joining us a little bit later on in the program. Also, we're going to have live music from Beck Shan and David Brimacombe. But right now, look, huge day in news because of the passing of Niki Lauda. So that's the story that obviously leads this week's In Pit Lane Motorsport News.
7 minutes on the EBS, and they're still sorting out the audio issue. I'm not sure what's going on, but Heidi's saying we're going to have to cut it and do it again. It's not looking good.
EBS is rolling.
There seems to be something.
This is why we need to know the Wi-Fi password so they can look at it on their phone as well.
Oh, they're looking, they're monitoring it in there.
Well, they watch somebody go outside and look at it on Facebook.
Yeah, no, we've got it's on Facebook and YouTube. And YouTube there. So what is it? Not streaming, or is it a problem?
What's the problem, Heidi?
I've got Wi-Fi in here. Yeah.
Did you just check the
Yeah.
YouTube channel at the quick time?
What's the problem, Heidi?
I just
Depends on who your server is.
Hello, camera 3. Okay, we've got I don't know if you can hear us on YouTube. Now, obviously, we're having some technical difficulties at the moment. You're getting a shot of from our security camera. I'm not really sure why you're getting a shot from our security camera, but you are. There we are. That's me. There. So yeah. So what we're going to do is, for those of you watching live, obviously we're going to basically start again. So we're going to fix the problem. Can they hear me? Do we know if they can hear me out at home at the moment on Facebook and YouTube?
yeah.
So you can live here, but
So if you're watching on Facebook and if you can hear me, can you let us know, because we've got no way of monitoring that down here.
Yes, apparently.
It's a problem with EVS.
you're live on YouTube.
Okay, it's a problem with EVS. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and fix that up right now.
Just in the Wi-Fi.
Oh, what Wi-Fi?
We can't hear it on the monitor, no.
No, we've got no sound. We've got no sound on the monitor here, and we've got no sound apparently coming out on the EVS out onto the feed. So this is a fun thing of going live, ladies. This is why we do this stuff live, because it's a challenge. It's not as easy. It's not a matter of just people think we come in and just push a button and it all happens sort of magically.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been told to shut. We will now bring you 5 minutes of silence for Niki Lauda. In Pit Lane is brought to you by NASCAR Racing. Support Nick Shembry in his campaign to the 2019 British Supercar Grand Prix. Be a part of the future. And with thanks to the following show supporters. Welcome everybody to another edition of In Pit Lane, coming to you on Channel 31 across Melbourne and Geelong, and of course coming to you live via Facebook and the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Coming up a little bit later on in the program, one of Australia's up-and-coming superstars of the supercar ranks. He's in the Dunlop Super 2 series, and his name of course is Thomas Randle. He'll be joining us in just a moment. Also live music from the duo of Beck Shan and David Brimacombe. But of course the tragedy today with the news that Niki Lauda has left us, and that of course is our lead story for this week's In Pit Lane Motorsport News. And we start with the sad news that three-time Formula One world champion Niki Lauda has died at the age of 70. Lauda's family confirmed the sad news, writing, "With deep sadness, we announce that our beloved Niki has peacefully passed away with his family on Monday, May 20, 2019. His unique achievements as an athlete and entrepreneur are and will remain unforgettable. His tireless zest for action, his straightforwardness and his courage remain a role model and a benchmark for all of us. He was a loving and caring husband, father and grandfather away from the public, and he will be missed." Lauda is considered to be one of the best drivers in the sport's history and was a frequent figure in the paddock throughout recent years whilst acting as Mercedes non-executive chairman. He won world titles in 1975, 1977 and 1984, and was most famous for his incredible return to the sport after suffering devastating burns in a crash at the Nürburgring in 1975. Lauda suffered severe external and internal burning and was given the last rites at his hospital bed. Despite this, he returned to the sport just 2 races later, driving to a remarkable 4th place at the Italian Grand Prix. The Austrian had suffered multiple health problems in recent years and had a double lung transplant last year. Lauda's brother Florian confirmed that the Formula One legend had been undergoing further treatment for kidney problems earlier this week. The Australian debut of TCR has widely been viewed as a success. A field of 17 cars faced the starter for the opening race, which was won by supercar veteran Jason Bright in a Volkswagen Golf. Sunday's 2 races saw young gun Will Brown once again show his great potential, with 2 strong wins in the Hyundai i30N. There was plenty of variety in the race, with 8 different manufacturers represented and one of the largest crowds ever seen for a Shannon's Nationals round. The series now moves to Phillip Island in 3 weeks' time, with organisers hoping for even more new cars on the way. Simon Pagenaud will start from pole position for next Sunday's 103rd running of the Indianapolis 500. The Frenchman set a 4-lap shootout qualification speed at 229.992 miles per hour to give Team Penske their 18th pole position at the Brickyard. Indianapolis specialist Ed Carpenter will start alongside Pagenaud on the front row of the grid, alongside his teammate Spencer Pigot in a career-best starting 3rd position. Defending Indianapolis 500 winner, Australia's Will Power will start from the outside of row 2 after setting the 6th fastest time with an average speed of 228.645 miles per hour. The other Australian in the field, Melbourne driver James Davison, will start from the outside of row number 5 after setting the 15th fastest time in his Dale Coyne Racing Honda-powered Dallara. But the biggest story of qualifying day at Indianapolis was the failure of former Formula One world champion Fernando Alonso to qualify for the race. Alonso was in a shootout for one of the 3 final positions, but lost out to Sage Caron, James Hinchcliffe and Kyle Kaiser. McLaren Racing, who ran the car for Alonso, have already said that they won't try and buy a starting position for him in the race. So the dream of taking motorsport's Triple Crown will have to wait for another year. The Indianapolis 500 will be run next Monday morning Australian time, and In Pit Lane will have full highlights and all the news in next week's program. Some fabulous racing at the Zolder circuit in Belgium as the DTM returned to the track after a layoff of more than a decade. In a brilliant drive, Audi driver Rene Rast drove to a dominant victory to lead home Saturday's race winner Philipp Eng. But the battle for the final step of the podium was an absolute classic. Audi driver Jamie Green claimed third place after a last lap battle with Mike Rockenfeller and pole sitter Sheldon van der Linde. A great drive in difficult conditions has seen 20-year-old British driver Billy Munger win the prestigious Grand Prix de Pau a little over 2 years after losing both his legs in a major Formula 4 accident at Donington Park.
We had the green flag lap and I just knew it was too wet, and where I was starting I just made the gamble for slicks, on the green flag, safety before the start of the race, and then from that point on just tried to pick them off one by one. But I got to thank the team, I got to thank Carlin. I mean, I didn't ever believe that 2 years ago that this would be the case, that I'd be winning races, and I'm just over the moon.
Munger took the lead after dropping all the way back to last place when he pitted for wet weather tyres early in the race. With a superior tyre choice, Munger cut his way back through the field, and after early leader Julian Hansis and New Zealand driver Liam Lawson collided, Munger took the lead, holding on to win from his Carlin Racing teammate Nikolai Kerregard to take the emotional victory at one of the world's most prestigious Formula 3 races, previously won by many of the world's top drivers, including Lewis Hamilton. It may only be a made-for-television confection designed to promote next week's Charlotte 600, but with $1 million for the winner, the NASCAR All Star Race is clearly taken very seriously by all the major competitors. Kyle Larson took the prize, taking the lead with 30 laps to go as he held off a hard-charging Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. An indication of just how seriously drivers were taking the event could clearly be seen at the end of the race, with drivers Clint Boyer and Ryan Newman bringing a touch of WWE to the post-race action. Of course, in modern NASCAR, the distinction between genuine competition and sports entertainment is sometimes just as hard to pick as those in the ring at WrestleMania. Honda rider Marc Marquez has strengthened his lead in the World MotoGP Championship with a win in the French Grand Prix at the Bugatti circuit at Le Mans. Marquez lost the lead early to Australian rider Jack Miller before retaking the position 2 laps later. He led home a trio of Ducatis with Andrea Dovizioso and Danilo Petrucci leading home Miller, who fell off the pace late in the race. Marquez now leads the series by 8 points from Dovizioso as the series heads to the Mugello circuit in Italy on June the 2nd. And defending Top Fuel world champion Steve Torrens has secured his second consecutive victory at the NHRA Nationals at Virginia Motorsports Park. Torrens recorded his 30th Top Fuel victory in defeating Antron Brown in the final round. Ron Capps took out his second consecutive funny car final, defeating the defending world champion J.R. Todd. The win marks Capps' 62nd funny car win. Bo Butner locked in his 4th win of the season in Pro Stock, defeating Greg Anderson. In Pro Stock Motorcycle, Andrew Hines earned his 3rd straight victory, taking a close win over teammate Eddie Krawick in the final round. The NHRA Drag Racing Series now rolls on to Chicago for the Route 66 NHRA Nationals at Route 66 Raceway on June the 2nd. And you're watching In Pit Lane right across Melbourne and Geelong on Channel 31. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dunlop Super 2 driver Thomas Randle. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Okay, well, that's the second time. I think that worked. Okay, Tom, you want to wander in and
Cool.
join us, and we'll get ready to go up. Thank you. You might have noticed we didn't have time to sort of mention it. We've got something new to play with. We have a new desk. We have, if we could get a wide shot of the desk somewhere, that would be really, have a look at our new desk, because this is absolutely lovely. Something good did come out of the weekend. We got a new desk out of it. So there you go. How long we get to keep this desk, we're not really sure, but it's here and it's beautiful. There it is. And then you can see Tom. It's got a.
I'm just trying to get used to the chair.
Yeah, that's well. Yeah,
I'm used to the couch, but now we've got a swivel chair.
A swivel chair.
It's very ergonomic, actually.
It is. It's very. Yeah. We've gone up market since you first came in. In fact, I think I've mentioned this before. The first time you came in, I think we were about 14.
Oh, I would have been. Yeah, I think we said last time I was on, I've been in every studio.
Every studio.
Yeah. So I've done the rounds. But this is the biggest. I'm liking the new
We
Kable.
look, we are
Yeah.
we are coming there. You would think that we were absolutely rolling in money. We're not exactly rolling in money, but we do have the support of our friends at NASCAR Racing and Troy Shembry and his family. And Nicholas Shembry, of course, is heading over. I think it's next week. Is heading over to Donington to the British Supercars Grand Prix. And if you're an Australian company and you would like to get on board and give Nicholas and his family a hand, it's a great opportunity for you to have your company exposed to people right around the world. So the British Supercars Grand Prix, as we said a couple of weeks ago when Nick was on the show talking with Doc last week, it's really the de facto world championship of supercar racing, and it gets lots of exposure right across Europe. So if you would like to be on board, it's very affordable, and you can help out to get Nicholas across to the British Grand Prix, and hopefully help another young Australian in his quest for international stardom in the world of motor racing. So thank you to Nicholas Shembry, NASCAR Racing, to Troy Shembry and his family for all their support of In Pit Lane. Speaking of support, this is our second last show, and next week I've been told in 2 seconds. Doesn't really matter how long this is, but I've got a funny feeling Heidi wants to go home really, really quickly tonight. So I'll just sit here and I'll just do as I'm told, and I'll tell you more about what we're planning for over the break and what we're hoping to do for another season of In Pit Lane coming up at the end of the year as per usual. But we are still looking for sponsors. It won't happen without sponsors. So thank you very much to as I said, to the Shembrys. I'm getting counted down. I have no say in the matter.
8 minutes 30 for this segment. 9.
Okay.
8, 7, 6, 5.
Bit of premature countdown then.
3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, the V8 Supercars are up, or they're not called V8 Super, they are V8 Supercars. They're up at Winton Motor Raceway this weekend, and the stepping stone to the main game is, of course, the Dunlop Super 2 Series. And one of the top drivers in the Dunlop Super 2 Series, racing for Tickford Racing, sponsored by Sky Sands, is our next guest tonight. As you said, he's been on the program many times over the years. Since he was racing in karts, he was about 14 when he first came in here, but now he's hopefully heading to the main game very soon. Please welcome to the program Thomas Randle. Thomas, welcome back.
Thanks, Brett. I know we were saying during the break that there's been a few upgrades in here, and yeah, I've been in every studio, so I feel like I've been a part of In Pit Lane for quite some time.
You're a very unique sort of person, because we have certain people we adopt as there, and I mean, you're in league with people like Nicholas Manassian and Colin Edwards, a few of those people, the late great Peter Brock, of course, people who are a part of the In Pit Lane family. So
yeah, I think you might need to get a plaque organised soon with all the names of everyone who's been in all the studios, and this desk is just
well,
doing it
at
for
the
me.
moment it would be a list of one, which I think is you in terms of all the studios. Although I don't think you were even born when we were in our first studio, but let's not go there. Let's talk about, first of all, did you have a look at the TCR on the weekend at all?
Yeah, I got to catch the first race on Saturday on SBS, but I didn't get to see what, I saw the results on Sunday, but I didn't get to see the races.
So what do you think about it?
Oh, I don't really know, to be honest. I haven't driven one of them, so it's hard for me to comment on what they like to drive and what they like to race. I did test a British touring car a couple of years ago, which is very different to a rear-wheel drive car. The techniques in how to warm the tyres up is something you got to get your head around, and the way to drive the car. I mean, if you have an oversteer, you actually, you put the throttle on instead of getting off it, and then if you've got understeer, you keep the throttle on to get the car rotated. So
we saw a number of those that happened on the weekend. Andre Heimgartner had some terrific wild oversteer moments in the early part of Saturday in qualifying, and that as people came to grips with it, because as you say, it's just totally different to anything you've ever raced before. If you haven't raced a front wheel drive car, totally different dynamics.
It's tough. I mean, driving a front wheel car on the road is a lot easier than trying to get the maximum out of it on a racetrack. And Andre struggled at the beginning of the weekend. I think he had some technical issues, but he came through really good, and I think he, in the last race, maybe was too aggressive. But in the second race, he was quite strong, and it could be really good for the country. I mean, I think they've had a good showing of cars for the first round, but I think they probably want to get a few more and some more brands, because there is no manufacturer support. But yeah, more brands and as long as it's close racing, that's
And
what people
for young guys like you, I mean, it's an opportunity because there is a bit of a logjam at the top for the main game. I mean, we've seen a number of drivers do really well in the Super 2 series, as it's called now, but they still can't sort of break through because I mean, there's plenty of talent there, and there's only so many drives to go around. Now, at this moment, where do you sit in the series after the opening couple of rounds?
So Adelaide was pretty tough. We qualified well. I qualified third, and then after the first race, got taken out, went back to the back, and then in Adelaide it's a progressive grid, so had to come through the back up the front. And by the end of the weekend, I was 11th in the points, and then Perth I moved up to 8th. So yeah, currently sitting in 8th with 5 rounds to go. But our next round is Townsville, so another 6 weeks away.
That surprised me. I mean, the Super 2s do have, I suppose they're doing it for budgetary reasons, but these really long gaps, I mean, are they a problem for guys like yourself if you don't have someone? I mean, you've been lucky, you've been able to drive some of the other cars, you've been able to drive some touring car masters stuff and those sorts of things, but and I understand that you are in fact driving this weekend on the Saturday up at Winton. So what's happening there?
Yeah, so there's a co-driver session or an additional driver's practice session which is happening on the Saturday. So no supercars running on the Friday, and we'll be the first session on track. So I'll be driving Lee Holdsworth's Bottle Mustang, which, like you said, there is such a break between the Super 2 rounds that it's nice to get in a car, and that being a supercar is also really good. So
have you had much experience with the Mustang?
I've done 3 laps around Phillip Island at the pre-season test day, which the team were kind enough to give me. I don't think their run plan went as smoothly as they would have liked, and then I got the additional driver session at Tasmania. So that was the last time I drove the car. So it'd be nice to drive at Winton in a supercar. And in fact, the team hasn't even gone to Winton this year. I know a few teams went last week, but this will be the first time the team has taken the Mustangs to Winton.
Are they any different, I mean, from the seat of your pants? I mean, we know this is essentially a control formula, but obviously they're very competitive, the Mustang. Did you notice any difference between the Falcon you're driving from last year and now the Mustang?
Well, even the Falcon I'm driving this year, I didn't really notice a massive difference. I know when I drove in Tasmania, they put all that centre of gravity and the lead up near the driver's head and on the roof, but I couldn't really...
Did you feel comfortable with that? I heard that and I thought, I'm not sure I'd be particularly happy with that.
I trusted the engineering group at Tickford and the mechanics that they did a good job, and look, I had a look and it's still there, so I think they've done a good job, but maybe in a big crash, not that we think about that, but maybe that's when it's, well, don't know how well it's going to hold, but in terms of the drivability and the way the car handles it, it feels nearly identical. I mean, my car is pretty much running the same internals as the main game car. The only difference really is the body. I mean, engines are all pretty much the same suspension, same dampers, same chassis. The chassis hasn't changed. So, yeah, I don't feel a massive difference, and that's why it's going to be nice to get back in it, because I did a test day at the start of the year at Winton in the Super 2 and at Winton. So I think it'll probably just feel like that.
Do you have a drive yet lined up for the Enduros?
Not at the moment. I'm trying to. The last seat available is the one with Lee, and Lee's a great guy. We get along like a house on fire, so that would be really nice, but it's all up to the team, and it's still early on in the year. A lot of teams haven't locked in their
So
drivers.
do you think, are you sort of viewing this Saturday as a bit of an audition piece for the team?
Every time you get in the car, it's an audition piece, so yes, I guess I am, but at the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is lock a wheel and ruin a set of tyres for Lee, or even damage the car. So the main priority is bring the car back and try and be fast, because it is the only session before the main drivers have their first and only practice before qualifying. And now the way they run these super sprint rounds is the practice, it actually gets you into the Q2. So you've got the Q1, Q2, Q3 format, and the top 10 of practice 1 will get you straight into Q2, and before practice 1 is our session. So yeah, need to maximise it and try and get the car, help get the car balanced right for Lee when he jumps in.
Hand it back as you found it, as they say.
Exactly, yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, let's stay with us for the moment. We're going to take a break now on Channel 31, but when we come back, we're going to have some music, and we're going to be joined by Thomas to say goodbye. But right now, we're going to take a break, as I said, on Channel 31, Melbourne and Geelong. When we come back, there'll be more in pit lane. So look, whatever you're doing now, don't go anywhere. Stay there, and we'll come back right after this. Okay, can we have, okay, now for those of you watching live at home, we've got our musical act for tonight, and they are the duo of Beck Shan and David Brimacombe. And yes, they'll be joining us in just a moment. They're just setting up now. And if you want to find out more about the guys, if you want to go to their Facebook page for news and performances at B&D Duo, that's on Facebook. And also, Beck has music of her own, which can be purchased via her website, which you can see there, beckshanmusic.com, and also it's available on iTunes, Spotify, and the usual streaming sites. We'll tell you more about that for Channel 31 in just a moment. But if we can just scroll down again, the song you were singing first is...
It's called White Collar Hall.
White Collar Hall. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're ready,
We're ready.
they're ready. Okay, well, joining us now is Beck Shan and David Brimacombe, and this is White Collar Hall.
Grey hollow casements, dark birds fly through, wet shattered walls of moss and sad cold skies and lonely old stone, damp chilled air and dreams that have flown. Silent are the fragments, hushed are the leaves, just the time-shattering cry of the rooks in the trees. Silent are the fragments, hushed are the leaves, just the time-shattering cry of the rooks in the
Beck Shan and David Brimacombe and White Collar Hall, and they will be joining us a little bit later in the program to play us out on Channel 31. Thank you for that. That was lovely. That was so relaxed now. Don't want to go on and talk about nonsense like cars going around in circles. I just want to relax and listen to more. That's very nice. Thank you for that. It was lovely. Now, speaking of cars going around in circles, there's some coming up at Phillip Island in a few weeks' time. The 2-litre sports sedans will be in action down there. So we'll tell you all about that probably next week on the program as well. They've got their own standalone dedicated race. Also, that particular race is going to serve as the nationals for the Nissan Pulsars, which we spoke about a bit earlier in the season. And also, so some of the top New South Wales cars will be coming down as well, so it'll be a big field, and also 2 litre sports sedans from interstate as well. So something to look forward to. That's coming up at Phillip Island very, very soon. As of course will be the next round of the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship coming up at Phillip Island in a few weeks' time as well. So we're just about ready to come back with what's on now. I'll just let you know that what's happening with the program. We are finishing next week on the program for the regular Channel 31 program, but there will be things happening on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Lots of material, including a lot of live streaming, will be happening over the break. So we're not sort of going away completely. One thing we are, of course, looking at, as I said before, is we do need sponsors to make this program work. There are costs involved. Of course, RMI TV Student Television is an all-volunteer organisation. We don't get any money out of this, damn it. But we do get pizza, and we've got to feed everybody, and there's also, of course, just the day-to-day running of hard drives and equipment, and being able to go to places like Winton. I mean, we didn't go up to Winton recently for the last weekend for the Historics, simply because, to be honest with you, it just kills sort of 4 or 5 shows worth of budget. It's a lot of money. So obviously we do need sponsorship for the next season, which will start in September, in early September on Channel 31. And as I've said before, this is prime time free-to-air television going right across Melbourne and Geelong, as well as whatever we do online. So this is not a podcast. This is a genuine television show that does go on free-to-air television, believe it or not. So that's what's happening with In Pit Lane over the next few weeks. I also just want to quickly say, as if you watch the program over the last few weeks, you'll know that I've recently had a tragedy in my life, and I just want to say to everybody who's sent well wishes and support and wishes of support, thank you very much. Really do appreciate it, and thank you to all of the crew once again, and to Doc last week for filling in for me. It's very much appreciated. And like I said, after it happened, I know Melissa would want me to continue on with this show. This is where we met. This show is very important to her, and we are going to really, trust me, we are going to fight and keep this program happening for her. Now, we're going to come back to from Channel 31, and we'll be telling you, courtesy of our friends at the Motoring Diary, what's happening in motorsport this week. So when you're ready, Pete.
10 seconds.
Brought to you by the Motoring Diary, your must-have guide for all motoring enthusiasts. So what's happening this weekend in motorsport around Melbourne? Well, up the Hume Freeway, the Supercars. The Super 2s will be in action, as well as will Formula Ford. Even the XLs are getting a run. It should be a great day with the Touring Car Masters also on the card. It's one of the biggest events of the year for the Winton Motor Raceway and for the entire region. So head up and see what all the fuss is about. Or if you want to avoid the traffic, why not make a detour to Broadford for the Porsche Club Super Sprint? Or you can avoid that part of the state completely and head out to Pakenham for a swap meet. Yes, a good old-fashioned swap meet. More opportunities to buy lots and lots of stuff you don't need at prices you can't afford. But it's fun, and that's the main thing. Was just saying to Thomas, I think I might, if I could get some time, go to that Pakenham swap meet. I haven't been to a swap meet since, the last swap meet I went to was actually in France at Le Grand Prix de l'Age d'Or at the Montlhéry circuit. Melissa and I were there, and they had a huge swap meet. And if I'd have been able to bring sort of, enough stuff back, the stuff that was at a French swap meet, it was just amazing. But yeah, there's lots of fun at a swap meet. Now, we talked about TCR and all the rest. Of course, you had an extensive experience overseas. Racing in open wheelers and also LMP3 and those sort of, is that sort of over, is the dream of overseas racing, have you put that aside now and you're just focusing on supercars, or would you like the opportunity to go back and do more international stuff?
At the moment, the dream is supercars, or that's what I'm focusing on. I think having been gone and done overseas stuff, I can say that I gave it a crack, and there's never that question in my mind of what would have happened if I had have gone over.
Because you did win the BRDC sort of Rising Star, which like a lot of prestigious drivers have won that.
Yeah, well, it's not really something you win. It's more you're invited, and you can't ask to be on it. You get a letter in the mail, and when I got the letter in the mail, I was thinking, what the heck's this? And sure enough, it was an invitation to be a BRDC Rising Star, which I still currently am today, and winning the TRS championship was probably the biggest
Yeah,
highlight
that
of my
was the other
career so
Toyota
far.
Racing Series in
Yeah.
New Zealand, which once again, some of the top drivers in the world. So when you look at some of the people that you sort of competed against and beat in that series, you look across and go, geez, I beat those people.
Yeah, I mean, it's racing, for example, against Habsburg, who's now racing in DTM. Like, it's pretty cool for him what he's achieved, and hopefully I can make the dream happen here. But if I ever got an opportunity to go overseas, even if it was to race in GTs or something, I wouldn't turn it down, because the more racing experience you can get, the better. And I was so lucky the last 2 years of my life, or last 3 years of my life, I've had so much experience over the world in so many different cars.
Well, good luck with when you get back behind the wheel of the Falcon again in Townsville. And what's the date? Is it next month or the month after?
July, the start of July.
Yeah, so you got a bit of a break.
Yeah, we do love our 2-month breaks.
Time to pop across to France, perhaps, for Le Mans.
Or for the swap meet.
Or for
I
the
never
swap
got to go to a swap
You never
meet when
got
I
to-
was
well, you
overseas.
You go up to Pakenham this weekend. This is on Sunday. Thomas, good luck with. Thanks for coming in again, and hopefully we'll catch up with you on a future series of In Pit Lane. But for now, Thomas Randle, thanks for joining us again on In Pit Lane.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me once again.
And thank you to you at home for joining us. Now, our musical guests tonight are the duo of Beck Shan and David Brimcombe. And if you would like to find out where they are performing, you can go to their Facebook page, B&D Duo, and also beckshanmusic.com for Beck's Music. But they're going to take us out tonight with the song Banshee. So from all of us here at In Pit Lane, from behind the new desk, until we see you next week, bye for now.
I heard a voice that wakened me in the casement of my window. Red-haired banshee, a stranger passed me on the street. I smiled and said good morning. She glared at me. Oh, what a sadness surrounds us. We're forgetting how to laugh. No child, you can't play in the park today. It's too dangerous for kids to play. Lament with me, Banshee, Banshee, keening. Lament with me, Banshee, Banshee, keening. Ooh, ooh, oh, ooh, oh. And twilight is my special time. It's when my hopes soar into the sky. My spirit is free like a dragonfly, and the world seems a precious place. Even the suburbs are enshrouded in mystery, but we're killing the earth as we have throughout history. I hear the howl of space in the wind. I feel it's pulling waves and tides, but I can't breathe the